Why not? Oh my God, I lost her.
Right here.
Where is she?
Probably behind that window. There she is.
This is how we look at showings now. Yeah, isn't it great? Actually, these aren't bad because these are disposable. I was lucky enough to find these, and you can breathe through these better than the fabric ones. So, yeah, and they've got the little straps.
And so we're live now.
We're live now, yeah. Don't swear, SueAnne, because Sam's already done that.
I will not.
She's a rebel.
I'm along for the ride with you guys, so.
Oh yeah,
oh, it's definitely a ride.
I literally the whole entire day when I wasn't doing appointments, I was working on this Facebook Live. So if anybody's here yet, which it doesn't look like anybody is, we had a heck of a time. Just trying to, like get the feed for 3 people was really difficult. Yeah. So we decided we're just going to share.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been sanitized.
Yeah, you both sanitized, you both drank some.
It's definitely a ride.
Right?
Okay, I'm going to mute mine.
Because she's watching the 20-second delay.
Well, and I want to watch comments, so I have it up here.
Okay.
So I don't have the Facebook Live on my screen at all, should I?
No, it'll confuse you.
We'll let you know if something comes up with a question for you.
If there's a question, we'll feed it to you. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Andy Barth is watching us.
What?
Hi, Andy.
Hi.
We're still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, Andy, you're in for a treat. You stick around. You might have to get we might have to get an extra door prize for him if he was the first one. Or Andy, we're going to have a contest tonight for a door prize. If you want to be included, you have to text Sam. 608-732-2990. You have to text her your name to enter to win the door prize. We've got.
He says, "Hi Sam, I'm here for the comedy show."
You can still register for the door prize. Here's a $25 gift card to Country Kitchen. You can use it in Platteville or Dodgeville, and we have a $25 gift certificate to Uno's in Platteville. And SueAnne, you're actually. These are kind of your old stomping grounds, isn't it? Lancaster?
Lancaster, absolutely. Yep.
A Lancaster hometown girl.
I was hoping you'd have like an A&W.
A&W. Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's open right now in Dodgeville, right?
It is open. Yeah. Get yourself a root beer float.
You come visit us and we can have taco salads and root beer.
Ooh.
Well, so I'm a closet A&W goer. You just don't know that I stop there when I leave the office. It's been a while.
It's out now.
Seriously,
so the next time you come to town, I would like a turtle sundae.
Ah, okay.
I will take a turtle sundae.
Okay, I can do that. I had a conversation with a friend of mine. He was for sure that A&W used to sell tater tots. Do you remember that?
I think they did.
I think he's right.
Oh.
I mean, it may not have been like on the A&W like national franchise menu, but I think some of the other restaurants, they did have items like that.
Oh, I don't
know. Or
know.
we could just be making that up.
I told him it was not. Yeah, I said,
hey, if there's anybody watching who knows,
might be.
Comment. Because SueAnne really needs to know about tater tots.
Does A&W have root beer floats? That's what I'd like to know.
Yeah.
Floats. Tater tots. See, now I have root beer. I would go for one right now. Sounds awesome.
Crazy. Oh. All right. Well, let's see. We have a few minutes. We got 6 minutes left to talk about just anything in general. So what's new, SueAnne?
What's new? I could pull up our job report claim and all that fun stuff that we had today.
You actually want to talk about work?
What's that?
You actually want to talk about work?
Oh, I thought that's what you wanted. No, not at all. Let's talk about your dogs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Millie had a day off today.
Okay.
Yeah. She
Does
was,
she really get excited to go to doggy daycare?
she loves to go to doggy daycare. We sing on the way to doggy daycare. So I don't know if she's more anxious to get away from me or to be with her friends. It's a toss up.
Huh.
But Sam has her own doggy daycare at home.
So we have 2 people entered for the door prize already.
Oh, that's good. Do they know anything about the tater tots?
Hey, Andy, do you know, did they used to serve tater tots at A&W?
Or do they currently?
Comment if you know.
This is going to take like 5 people to even run this show here. There's so much happening. You should see our desk right now. There's paper everywhere. Yeah, so Millie had to take a day off. She had 2 big action-packed days at daycare, and she'll probably get to go tomorrow.
Nice. Is it right there in Dodgeville?
Yeah.
Is that over by Quick Trip?
Just north.
Just north. Okay.
Yeah, just north of town.
Okay.
Yep. She has a lot of friends there. Last week they had a doggy birthday party.
Okay.
Yeah, her friend Bella turned 1. It's pretty cute. If Bella's owner's on, I loved the card, the little thing that you left. It was cute. All the puppies got to take home a gift bag.
Oh my gosh.
It was the best ever.
Wow.
Yeah.
Don't tell my dog.
Right?
Is everything open in Dodgeville? All the stores?
A lot of stuff is opened. People are like, some people are not really doing dining rooms yet, or, you know, it's just unclear to a lot of people what the actual expectations are.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. But, I mean, like, I think most of the downtown businesses are as open as they can be.
Sure.
We got Don joining us, and we have Susan joining us.
Oh, nice. Nice. And
Hello.
we have 3 minutes to go. Hi. Dawn or Dawn? Dawn or Dawn?
How do you say it?
Dawn.
Dawn?
Lady, a Dawn, or a man, Don?
How did I say it?
I don't know.
I thought it was just
Dawn,
Dawn.
like a D-O-N.
Is it not Dawn? Am I saying it wrong?
Is it Dawn? Like
It's Dawn, like dawn. Like the dawn of days, dawn.
Dawn.
Am I saying it right? Oh, you're going to make me paranoid.
Well, it's those Midwestern accents.
Well, I know, I am from Iowa, so are
Me
you.
too. I'm from Dubuque. Lancaster,
Went to
Dubuque.
school there. Yeah.
And you're from
there.
Makokata.
Makokata.
Our whole family's from Central Iowa in Belmont.
Oh, really?
Yep. So,
Wow.
oh boy.
How did we all end up in Wisconsin?
Smart ones got out.
Yes. Right.
Sorry.
I just quit paying them about 2 years ago too for my degree. So.
Oh, that's a big thing.
Mhm.
Like, how do you say
That
my
was a
name?
big day to celebrate.
Dawn. How do you say Dawn? Yeah.
Oh, and I don't know how to say your name. Stacia? Stacia?
Stacia.
Stacia?
I
She thinks it's Taco John's that had tater tots, not A&W. And I think she is right.
They still do.
They still do. I think she's
Yeah.
right. So thank you, Stacia. Was that how you'd say that? Stacia?
Yes, I
I
would
can't say
agree.
Dawn, and you're asking
For
me.
sure.
So yeah, it's Taco John's for sure for tater tot.
They still do have them, and they're awesome.
What are
Yeah.
those tater tot? Or are those potato olays?
Yes.
Oh yeah, those are like the only thing I like.
Cheese sauce. Oh my gosh. Well,
All right.
how are we looking? Just a reminder, you have to text if you want to get in the
yes,
door
Stacia, right.
prize. So the
Yes.
text number is 608-732-2990. And you have to message us if you want the handout. Because I mean, we spent a lot of time on that. You should probably want it. We spent a lot of time on
Because
it.
it might be the only thing that goes well.
You know, the lighting could give out at any minute. We could lose our internet connection. It's not funny, but that happens. It's just been that kind of day.
Yes, my son was just telling me, Mom, the internet's terrible. I was like, can't be. Everybody off your phones.
Did you kick everyone out of the house?
No, I tried. I just warned them and threatened them.
I can't wait until one of them like goes and slams open the dishwasher or
I know, because that's what
I need food.
No, my daughter already asked, when's dinner? I said, not till I'm done. No noise in the kitchen. Yeah.
You go chew on your fingernails, lady.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen to you. All right. We had some snafus earlier, like my Alexa or Siri or whatever was talking back at us. And it's been a really interesting day so far. So we are excited. It is 6 o'clock and we promised we were going to do this at 6 o'clock. So we got to get started. I'm going to remind you one more time, if you want to get involved or get your name in the drawing, you need to text your name to 608-732-2990. The door prizes are a $25 gift card to Country Kitchen, good in Platteville or Dodgeville, and a $25 gift card to Uno's. So we'll be doing that as well. And I guess what we'd like to do is we would like to, now she wants paper, like seriously. We planned for this, by the way. So before we get too far in, we do want to introduce ourselves. So I'm Nancy K. Smith. I'm with First Weber, and we've got Sam here. Sam,
Hi.
get in there.
Sam Staskal. I'm also with First Weber, and I'm in Platteville.
I'm in mostly Dodgeville, but all over.
All over.
And SueAnne, take it away. Introduce yourself.
Thank you. I'm SueAnne Boyum, and I'm with Prosperity Home Mortgage, and I am licensed statewide. So.
That's awesome. And you've been a very busy lady lately.
Extremely busy. Rates have been forgiving lately. It's been a great ride. Yes.
That's good. And that's one of the things that we're actually going to talk a little bit about is rates and how it's affecting new purchases with appraisals and things like that because of all the refinancing that's going on. So I want to give you a disclaimer. We cannot give legal advice, and any conversations about real estate are not meant to be taken as advice for any transactions or agents that you're currently involved with. So what we're talking about here is, in general, the procedure from start to finish of buying a home. And with that being said, we're going to kind of dig right in. So we do have a little bit of background that we want to give you. So how we got to the current market right now is it's kind of crazy because we actually started getting in the position that we're in about 2008, which is when most people would call it the bubble burst, or the market was broken or fell apart or whatever you want to call it. But really what happened was there was a lot of, it was like a perfect storm with the economy and just the loans and the way that loans were being given out. And a lot of people lost their homes. So there was a very high rate of foreclosures and short sales. And it caused the traditional home sale process to kind of almost fade into the shadows a little bit. Yes, there was still a traditional market where sellers were going to buyers, but there was so much pressure and competition from the REO properties, which is real estate owned or corporate owned properties, that it affected prices. So you saw depreciation in many, many markets. Now, what happened before the depreciation was a rapid several year process of appreciation. So it's not like everything just fell apart and we've had to try and come back from it. We were up and then we came back down, and that's a normal cycle and rhythm in finance, if a lot of you follow that. So getting back to this process with the foreclosures and the short sales, if you wanted to make an offer on one of those properties, you had to provide a letter of pre-approval even before you could make an offer. Like, you could not submit the offer without that. Traditional sellers started finding out about that, and they decided, you know what, if we can do that too. So they almost started requiring that we have these letters of pre-approval. We would see a lot of things get kicked back from corporate banks and companies because they were actually getting pre-qualification letters. And we're going to talk about the difference between those two, but there is a difference between a pre-qual letter and a pre-approval. And what we are really going after here is pre-approval. It is the safest way for you to be out buying a home right now. When we had the uncertainty in the traditional market dating all the way back to 2008, and I would say that period of foreclosures lasted a probably good 4 to 5 years before it started to taper off, and we started to see the transition back to the traditional home seller rather than a corporate owned seller. And but what happened is that there were so many people in rentals because they couldn't get financing because their credit got ruined when they lost their homes, that it was this kind of weird period where there just wasn't a lot of inventory, but we also just had kind of like a normal supply of buyers. As years went on and buyers started to requalify for loans, there started to become a lot more pressure. People wanted to own those homes, but they couldn't get into the market because there's still no inventory. So we've had this really kind of what I would call an inventory shortage pretty much since probably 5 to 6 years ago, when the market started to really return. With one of the common questions we get is about appreciation. How much have homes appreciated? Well, with the amount of competition for the little bit of inventory that we have, homes have been appreciating, not at a rapid pace, but at a steady pace, which is a lot more comfortable. And some people deem that to be better for our economy as well. So we're going to take low inventory, we're going to add high competition, and that equals speedy decisions. And not everybody is comfortable with speedy decisions. And that's why we're doing a home buyer seminar, because we want you to understand the process. If you're serious about buying a property, you need to understand what the conditions are that you're going to be dealing with. Now we have additional pressure. We have the COVID-19 delay. So what I would say is really happening here, what a lot of other people are starting to say, is our spring market has been put off by 2 months. So normally we see a lot of inventory coming in February and March. Now it has been delayed until, I would say it started probably 2 weeks ago. You could almost feel the light switch go on. And so we're starting to see a lot more listings come on. Listings that are in good condition and are priced well, they go very quickly, and there's almost always multiple offers on them. So we are watching home watch searches. We are desperately trying to get our buyers into these properties so that you have a chance. And what do you need as a buyer? You need to be having your pre-approval up to speed and ready to go. And SueAnne and Sam are going to talk a little bit more about that. You might have heard that I invited sellers to this as well. Why did I do that? Well, Sam made a very good point. Sellers are oftentimes buyers as well. They're going to sell a property. Many times they're going to go on to buy one. They need to understand the process, but they're going to see it from 2 different sides. As a seller, you think, I'm going to put this out there. I want to sell my house. And what do I do with all these offers? And how is my house going to be shown? And by the way, this little basket of goodies is something I've been carrying with me. I know you can't see everything in there, but we've got masks, booties, we've got hand sanitizer, we've got Clorox wipes. I mean, that's just the way it is. And if you joined us earlier, you saw me wearing my mask because you almost have to always have a mask on when you go into someone else's house. So with all of these changes that are coming on, sellers really, when you bought your house, the market is different. I guarantee you the market is different from when you bought it. If it was 3 years ago, 2 years ago, if it was 5 or 7 or 10 years ago, or maybe a lot more, the market is always changing. Real estate procedures are always changing, and regulations and laws change over time. So the way things are handled is most likely different from when you bought the property. We want you to have a good understanding of this process because you have to get through things that are beyond the buyer's control. Once you get that agreement scheduled with the buyer, we still have to get through financing, in many cases appraisal, in many cases inspections, and there could be other things as well. If it's a rural property, now we've got well, septic, and water tests, and radon tests are very common too. So there's a lot of things that we can tell you about what that process involves. We also have great strategies available for sellers. So if you are interested in making a change, it might be worth your while to talk to us about, I want to sell my house, but I don't want to be pushed out of my house. And where am I going to go? Those are very valid concerns, and we can help you with that. So I believe knowledge is power. And the more informed you are, the better educated you are about the process, the more confident you are about the process, the easier it's going to be for you when push comes to shove, literally, you're going to have a lot more comfort in making the offer on the property that you want, even if it means that you're competing with another offer. So with that, I'm going to ask if there's any questions. Do we have any questions rolling in yet?
Nope, but Ann Larson has joined us.
Ann!
So has Chris Marion.
Oh,
She
Chris!
said your hair looks great, you rock star.
Oh, you know what, Chris? Thank you. Because can I just take a minute to tell you, my mom is an internet troll. Do you guys know that? Did you see the comment where my mom was like, "What have you done to your hair?" Because we posted a little video. SueAnne, you're laughing, but I remember having this conversation while we were doing the recording, and then my mom actually goes on here and says, "What have you done to your hair?" And I'm like, "Well, Mom, I haven't had a haircut since like early February." So thank you, Chris. I love you. And hi, Ann. I love you too.
And then Laura Road.
Laura, hi. She's another one of my folks. I love you all. All right, so we got to move on because we can't just sit here and have a party. I mean, we could. We'd love to, but we promised you education. Okay, so we are going to move on now, and we're going to do this really nice transition where I'm going to back out of the way.
Share screen first?
Oh, she doesn't want to be seen on the screen. She wants me to show you something. Hang on, guys. We're going to bring up our handout. I hope you can see it. There it is.
Okay. So now
Which would you like me to change the page to?
Oh, I can
would
do
you,
it.
Would you like me to do
No,
that?
really,
too?
I can do
Okay,
it.
No, okay, there you go. All right, gotcha. Just move.
All right. Nancy's a talker. She's got like what, 23 years in the business. So she's a great source of knowledge for me and for anybody else that has questions that they can't find answers to or would like help. I'm going to talk a little bit about the importance of the pre-approval and kind of the process that it goes through. One of the first steps in looking for a house, you should be talking to your lender at either before starting or very soon to get pre-approved so you know how much you can afford. There's two key pieces to an offer to purchase, and one is the appraisal contingency and the other is the finance contingency. The home must pass approval and appraise out for what you're agreeing to pay. And then you also must be credit and financing approved. In a home sale, the purchase agreement, the financing contingency refers to the clause that expresses that the offer is contingent on the buyer securing financing on the property. So it's for your own benefit that we have that in the offer to purchase, because it's an out for you if something falls through. Like if something comes up, you lose your job, or you have some other extenuating circumstance, you're not legally bound by that contract anymore if you cannot secure the financing for the house. Most realtors, even to begin working with you, will want you pre-approved, especially right now with COVID. It's especially important because we don't want to take people into houses that we don't need to take into houses. So if you can't get a loan for this house, we don't necessarily want to take you in there to risk infection for either you or the sellers. So only home buyers who are obtaining financing to make the purchase contingent on obtaining the loan. The contract might be contingent on the buyer obtaining an FHA loan, which has additional requirements to conventional loans, or they might be doing a VA loan, which is guaranteed by the Veterans Administration and also has additional requirements to what conventional loans do. A conventional loan, which requires a down payment and may carry a higher PMI. PMI, I'm sure they'll talk about later, or SueAnne will talk about, is what is it? Personal PMI.
Private mortgage.
Private mortgage insurance. I knew it was mortgage insurance. I just couldn't think of the first name, first word. So, and then there's also private financing. When we talk about the home appraisal, you know, the home has to be approved. Depending on what type of loan that you're getting, there's different criteria that the property has to meet in order to be approved for that lender to loan you the money for that. And if the seller and the buyer can't agree on what that is, or who's going to make that repair or who's going to pay for that repair to accommodate what the lender and the loan requirements are, the buyer might not receive the loan and the transaction could just be null and void. Examples of property conditions that raise flags for certain loan programs would be peeling paint, asbestos, missing handrails or handrails that aren't the correct height, smoke detectors, CO detectors. There's numerous things, and your agent can inform you along the way. And most inspectors are good at pointing out too that, hey, this might not qualify. So it's good to know that when you're looking at a home, what you need to pass for the loan. So let's talk more about what is the mortgage pre-approval. Your home is likely the biggest purchase of your life, and you probably need a loan in order to do that. So getting a mortgage pre-approval can give you the advantage while house hunting. The seller relies upon the pre-approval letter as proof of creditworthiness and the ability to qualify for a loan. So it makes them take your offer more seriously if you're pre-approved at the time you're submitting an offer, because they know that a lender is willing to loan you money if all goes according to plan. So your mortgage pre-approval is a statement of how much money the lender is willing to let you borrow to pay for a house. It's an important step, and it serves as a roadmap for eligible loan programs available to you. A pre-approval is based upon your financial situation, including how much you have in the bank, investment accounts, your 401k, your income, as well as your financial obligations or what you owe. A lender also performs a credit check when determining pre-approval for a loan. With all of that, the lender can make a pretty good estimate of the type of home or the amount of home that you can afford. And then you need to look at how much your down payment would be, how much your home insurance would be, to find out what's appropriate for you to buy, what you're comfortable with as a payment. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. When you have a pre-approval, it states that the lender is prepared to move forward with the loan, and as long as the home approves and meets the qualifications and your financial situation doesn't go through a big change like a loss of a job before closing, then you are lendable. You're good for a loan in most cases. So, you know, a lot of people I've seen bring letters of pre-qualification, and that is not the same thing as a pre-approval. There's a difference between being pre-qualified and being pre-approved. If you're pre-qualified, the lender basically goes by some generic information that you give them, like how much money you make. It doesn't really look at all of your debt or your debt to income ratio. It doesn't like fully go through your credit report. And, you know, they might look at your credit score and then what you tell them as far as what you make. So it's just like, if everything you say is true and you don't have debt, then yes, you would pre-qualify for a certain amount. And I'm sure SueAnne can explain this better. But when you're pre-approved, they actually require the documentation to prove, you know, your income, your assets, your debt to income ratio. So it's more solid when you're making an offer. Again, SueAnne can correct everything I just said. So whether you're buying your first home or you're a house hunting veteran, getting pre-approval on a home loan is a smart move if you want to remain competitive in this market especially. We're finding that, you know, a lot of homes, as soon as they're listed, they're getting offers if they're priced right and the condition's great and location and everything. They're getting serious offers right out the gate. Well, you don't have time to backtrack to get pre-approved if somebody else is already in front of you that's seen the house, submitted an offer, and is pre-approved. So if you do that ahead of time, it's considered a serious offer, and it just puts you ahead of the game. Communication during the whole process is extremely important. You need to communicate any changes that you have to both your lender and your agent. Don't assume that one is always informing the other one, because there might be a lag in the communication. So you need to make sure they're both aware of anything that might interfere with the transaction, because we want to keep it, once you submit that offer, we want to keep it moving towards closing. You know, there's milestones that has to meet along the way that are time sensitive. So it's important to talk to both people. There's also a lot of don'ts for home buyers, and you know, some people don't realize the ramifications of doing these things when you're in the process of buying a home. So, excuse me, in most cases, you know, you can close in 30 to 45 days. So in when you think of that, that's a really short time. So do you want to buy a new car? I think you can wait 30 to 45 days, because if you apply for a loan for a new car, it's going to throw off your credit score and your debt to income ratio for your home loan, which could end up making it denied. Don't change jobs unless it's absolutely necessary and you have to. Just make sure that you're communicating with both your loan officer and your agent. Like I said, don't make large purchases. Don't apply for credit cards or additional credit that would affect your score, because your lender either has a continual credit monitoring while you're in the loan process, or they'll run a final credit check before closing. So anything that pops up new on there is a red flag, and it could cause the transaction to not close. Don't give earnest money directly to sellers. If you're working with a for sale by owner, you're going to want to set up like an escrow account or something to hold that money. If you work with us and most real estate agents, it'll be put in a trust account, so it's protected that way. Also, don't ignore lender requirements. If they're asking you for further information, make sure that you're getting that to them as fast as you can to keep the process moving along. We don't want to stall out waiting for a document that could end up setting the closing date back, because the sellers are also counting on that closing date. And don't do things alone. Agents are here to help. It's your agent's job to ensure that things go as smoothly as possible, and that we make it to closing and the transaction is completed. Agents are here to assist you, so you don't have to figure it out on your own. I mean, that's what we're paid for. That's what we love. That's what we want to do, is we want to help you. I just want to talk a little bit about financing for sellers, because I've seen this a lot in my very short career, where they're selling one house and they want to put an offer in on a new house. Right now, with the way that the market is, you don't always have time to sell your house first. Or if you're relocating for work, you might not be able to sell your house before you have to purchase another one. So there's different financing that you could look into. You definitely want to check out your options. There's bridge loans that go by the equity in your current home. You could get, and it's just for a short period loan for a transitionary period. You could borrow against your 401k is another option, or you could get a home equity loan or a home equity line of credit. You can also borrow against, I think I said your 401k, or there's other options. So make sure that you look into everything before you assume that you can't move forward, that you have to sell your house first. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to SueAnne to correct anything I might have said.
And Jason Cook has joined.
Oh, hi, Jason. And then how do I don't even know how to work this mouse. In my defense, the mouse doesn't move, just the ball moves.
Right.
So how do I go to not share the screen while SueAnne talks? Oh, right here. So I just
the red,
stop
the red.
share.
There you go.
All right, there's SueAnne.
Hello.
Take it away. It's all you.
All right, 1 second here.
No 1 second. You had this entire time I was rambling to get your act together. Just kidding.
So thank you, Sam. You did a great job. You covered a lot of what I would cover otherwise. I guess for most buyers, especially new buyers, there's a lot of apprehension and a lot of question and a lot of confusion when it's comes to buying your first home. So generally the first question that I get is, where do I get started? And oftentimes you'd want to jump in right away and go to that realtor and start looking at homes. I will tell you that currently in the COVID situation, sellers are not even letting buyers into the home if they don't already have a pre-approval with them. So as an agent, as your realtor, they will likely ask you if you have a pre-approval letter in hand. Sam touched on the difference between a pre-qualification and a pre-approval. Generally with a pre-qualification, though, we do still do a credit inquiry. Sam had mentioned that we might just take your word for your credit and do a soft pull, or assume that what you saw on Credit Karma is good enough. That's not necessarily accurate, especially these days. I personally would rather not waste time with a simple pre-qualification, because I know that's not going to get you very far. So we would start with the actual pre-approval. I'll pull in your credit report. We'll discuss debt ratios. We'll see if there needs to be any credit repair done on your credit scores so that you qualify for a greater purchase price as well as other loan programs. And then of course, we'll discuss your down payment and what opportunity you have as far as a 3%, a 5%, maybe a 20% down payment, or if you would like to go the other way with a 0% down using some unique loan programs or even some down payment assistance. So there's a huge gamut that we can run. But in all fairness, I would tell you that I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste your realtor's time. And I surely don't want to waste the seller's time if you're not pre-approved to go out on those showings, again, especially considering the climate we're in right now. So that all being said, that's, again, kind of the very first question I get with a new buyer is, what do I do? How do I get started? And I'm going to instantly say, start with the loan application. Let's make sure that we are within range, that we find the eligible loan programs for you, that we work through any credit report that we need to, whatever it is to get you in the best position to present the best offer when you're ready to write one. So there is that difference between a pre-qualification and pre-approval. And again, Sam touched on most of it, but I want to let you know that I'm maybe, I wouldn't say more aggressive, but I definitely am a little bit more serious when it comes to a pre-approval. And again, just to not waste anybody's time. And at the same time, find any weakness and help you recover from, again, a credit, credit blurb or anything that would lower your credit score. Anything along those lines that I could help to make you a stronger buyer to move forward. And any lender is going to do this. All of us are working our tails off. We are working from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Just given the current climate, not a lot of inventory, as Nancy was saying. But at the same time, the refinance market has skyrocketed. I'm sure that you've heard about that. So if we've got people on here that are currently sitting with a mortgage and considering a refinance, definitely something to chat with your lender about. Give me a call. It would be worth just running the numbers. It costs you nothing. We don't have to worry about an appraisal or anything like that right up front. Many homes and buyers are offered appraisal waivers. So it's a nice about $450 savings for you. But anyway, so that's the pre-approval and the pre-qual. Again, being qualified for a mortgage in general, we need to figure out how we can move forward with some of the loan programs and just getting, through that initial application. Again, it's free. There's no obligation. It takes you about 10 minutes. Yes, we're going to do a credit pull, but we need to find out what you're qualified for before we push you out the door. And then you get to have fun, of course, looking for the home if your realtors can help you with that. But I tell you, the inventory is crazy. I don't know if they can see you on the screen as well, Nancy. I see Nancy's over there waving, thumbs up, and I don't know that you guys can see this. So anyway,
who knows?
I will reflect your
It's new to all of us.
your ways.
I know Sam's busy, so that's why I had to sneak that in there.
Sorry,
Oh.
how long is a pre-approval typically good for? Is it 3 months?
A pre-approval is actually good for as long as your credit report is good, which is 120 days.
Okay.
Yep. So after 120 days, we do need to update credit, and we might need to update your, pay stubs, bank statements. We'll see if there's been any job change, any income change, anything like that. But otherwise, we try to close you in those first 120 days, and if we can't, then we'll just repull credit. Hopefully, you've even gained a few points over that 120 days. You will get the lecture, of course. 10 commandments of what not to do with your credit before you buy a house. So just like Sam had reviewed, don't go open new credit cards. Don't reduce limits on credit cards. Don't increase limits on credit cards. Do not close them. Please do not close them.
Status quo.
Status quo. Just essentially, unless it's an emergency, tie down that social security number and do not use it. So you can shop around a little bit for lenders. That's something that I should point on here. Rule of thumb that we've heard from the credit bureaus is that you've got up to 6 weeks to shop for lenders, and they want you to be prudent and shop for the best product and the best price. Loan product, interest rate, and fees. So they do give some leniency there. They do not ding your credit. I hear that a lot. Are you going to ding my credit if you pull my credit history? So the catch with that is, yes, it might be dinged, but if you don't know exactly what your score was before I pulled it, then we don't know how much it was dinged. So your credit score is constantly evolving, constantly moving. It's not a specific set target that we're going to hit every time. So you know, if you were to have your credit pulled with a local lender, and then you get online and do Quicken Loans or Lending Tree or something like that, and you've got several inquiries over the course of a couple of weeks, realistically, your scores should stay very much the same between those lenders over those few weeks. I do not suggest spreading that out, you know, 4, 6, 8 weeks. You're going to start to see your scores drop. But you can definitely shop around with lenders, again, to find the right product, to find the, you know, an ideal interest rate, pricing, fees, that sort of thing. It's okay to do that. That is a huge question that I get. The next thing I want to bring up is down payment and closing costs. That's always a big question as well. Again, I briefly touched on a 0% down payment option all the way up to 20% down. 0% are a USDA loan, maybe a bond loan with an assistance program tied to it. You know, you might even have some more smaller local banks that would offer some sort of portfolio loan with you. Your interest rate might be a little bit higher, but they would offset that with a very low down payment. Portfolio lenders are very unique, and they kind of serve a niche market. So it would be individual to them versus what I would be offering. I'm a little bit more mainstream. So as far as speaking directly to those programs, I know enough to be dangerous. As far as closing costs, so oftentimes we have buyers, first of all, if you don't have funds for down payment, it's very likely that you also don't have funds for closing costs. Very realistic situation. And right now, with rates being so extremely low right now, oftentimes it makes more sense to buy than to rent. And if anybody is interested in a graph that would show if you are renting for X amount versus buying for X amount, I'm more than happy, you know, put something in the chat or in the comments, and we'll take note of that. And I can send you over information on if it makes sense to buy right now or to continue renting. For some, it's a no-brainer, and it's very easy. I do a lot of business in the Madison area, and man, the rental costs up here are ridiculous. So by far, we are getting people into 3-bedroom, 2-bath homes for a lower mortgage payment than what their rent payment is. So something to discuss. Anyway, so back to the closing costs. You can roll those into your loan, assuming that the seller will cover them for you, either in a closing cost credit or basically raising the offer price. So how that works is if you've got say a $200,000 purchase, your closing costs should run roughly between $1,500 and $2,200, somewhere in there. And then in addition to that, we also have to establish what's called your escrow accounts. Escrow accounts are a savings account for taxes and home insurance, and they are required to be funded with a 2-month cushion for both taxes and home insurance. And then we also collect one more month, because the month you close, you're not paying taxes or home insurance. And so we still need to put that amount in savings. So we say it's basically a 3-month cushion. Reality, it's 2 months, but if you want to break it down, you've got the 2-month cushion and then that 1 extra month for the month that you're not paying a mortgage. So all in all, on a $200,000 house, you know, if you say you're going with a 0% down loan program, you would still probably be coming to closing with about $4,000 to, again, cover closing costs and to cover all of your escrows. So what we would do, or how I would advise your agent, is basically you could either write an offer for $204,000 and ask for a $4,000 seller cost credit, or you could still write for $200,000 and ask for that $4,000 closing cost credit. But then you have to understand that what that seller is actually getting is $196,000. So we're going to be taking funds from their net proceeds at closing and literally transferring them to you to pay for all of your closing costs and your escrows. So when people call and say, I hear I can wrap my closing costs into the loan, yes, that's an option. But at the same time, we have to make sure that the sellers are on board. A step beyond that is the home has to appraise out then for that final price of, say, again, that $204,000 versus the $196,000. I'm live here, so okay. Sorry. My apologies. So the home would have to appraise out for whatever that final, you know, price point is. So again, like I said, $204,000. Other than that, that's really all there is for the closing costs, but it is a huge question that I get. Again, if you're not able to cover the down payment or the closing costs, there are options for that. You do have to qualify for 0% down programs, as well as down payment assistance programs. There are minimum credit score requirements and there are maximum income requirements, and some are even location specific. So lots of little nuances for every loan program, and it's something to have a real, centered and focused conversation with your lender, because there are so many options out there, and we wouldn't want to, put you right into one bucket and trying to fit you in and, your 5% down payment and pay all your closing costs, because it scares people. It could be a really huge investment on the front end that they aren't expecting. Your realtor will probably touch on all of this information with you. But again, I often train my realtors, you let me do my job, you do your job, and we won't switch, so that we don't have to muddy waters, and you can get basically the right, be on the right track right when you start from the beginning, and what your financial obligation is going to be, not only monthly based on your mortgage payment, but also at closing. So the other opportunity with closing costs is always gift funds. You can have a family member gift you funds. That family member is involved slightly only to the point of completing a gift letter, and then also showing the paper trail of the funds going into your account, coming out of their account. It can be a little bit more cumbersome with some loan programs, but still a great option that, again, people are not always aware of. But any of you on the call or on the show, the live show, gone are the days that you need 20% down. So I want y'all to understand that too. And then the other piece is your credit. So again, I touched on that a little bit before. I know that Sam mentioned it a bit as well. But really just be sure that you're locking down your Social Security number and being careful with your credit scores. Again, that will help you qualify for some programs. And unfortunately, the inverse, it will also knock you out of some programs. So something to watch, something to have that discussion with. And just be realistic in your expectations. If you know you've had late payments or collections or anything like that, let's work together, get those removed from your history, hopefully raise your credit score, and just be realistic that it might be 3 or 6 or 9 months out, but it's never too early to start the process. So even if you're not looking till the fall, it is okay to go through a pre-approval right now and make sure that you've got all your ducks in a row. Big deal if you have to repull your credit in 120 days if it expires, it's okay. We're not going to see a variance, assuming you've listened and not touched your Social Security number and done anything funky in your credit. You'll be okay. You're not going to lose any ground between me pulling credit or your lender pulling credit now and 120, 140, 180 days later. So other than that, if there are any questions that pop up, let me know, but I don't want to inundate you or confuse anybody.
There's a couple things I was hoping that you might be able to put into the comments when you get done here. One would be can you put in a link to your app, which I think is a marvelous tool, by the way.
To the phone app? Sure.
The phone app. And from there, you could actually do an application, but they also have a really good mortgage calculator in there.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
And I wrote down a note from before when Sam was talking about sellers that are currently considering a bridge loan or a HELOC. I will tell you right now with COVID, those are few and far between, and a lot of investors that are offering those have suspended them for a bit. So if they're not suspended completely, then again, they're quite limited and they might come very expensive. Additionally, they might have really high interest rates. So there's a lot of restrictions right now. Hopefully we'll get back to that environment when we can use those HELOCs really quickly in the bridge loans. And I'll even be offering one soon coming down the road, but we suspended all of that. And I guess I'm not even familiar with many lenders right now that have them readily available, or at least not as readily available as they were prior to COVID. So my solution with that is when I've got a seller who is looking to sell their current home and then buy, there's something called a recast. And what that is basically you can purchase a home, assuming you can qualify for both mortgages, which you would have to do the same with a HELOC as well. You can purchase a home with a minimum down payment, say 5%, sell your other home, and then use those net proceeds towards the principal on your new home. And what it is it's literally recasting that principal balance on your new loan. You don't have to go through refinance. You get to keep your current interest rate. There's really no reason I would advise somebody to go with a HELOC or a bridge loan over a recast. Again, you have to qualify for, both mortgages at the same, whether it's a HELOC or a bridge loan or a recast, not a recast, a purchase in general. But at the end of the day, going through that HELOC, getting that paid off, the stress of that, the cost of that versus doing a recast is a fantastic option. It just has been a lifesaver for so many sellers right now, where again, you'll go through your investor, but you would literally recast that principal balance. Hopefully you'll even drop off that PMI. And again, you don't have to go through a refinance. Of all the investors I've worked with, they either offer those for free or there might be a $250 charge. Again, subtle nuances between every investor, where some say a minimum of a 10% balance is what they need for that recast, or a minimum of $20,000. And I've even seen some that say there is nothing, as long as you can give more than what your principal, your current principal payment is, as long as you want to expedite that more. And they'll do these recasts every month if you want, so it's basically, if you come into a cash flow and you want to apply that to your principal balance, know that you can do that from here on out to your 30-year, if you're extending your 30-year mortgage all the way out. So definitely something to look into. Again, given that HELOCs and bridge loans are more difficult to obtain these days, keep that buzzword in mind. It's called a recast, and make sure that you chat with your lender about that opportunity.
It's a great opportunity for sellers, and especially with somebody who might be worried about losing out on that low interest rate too, wanting to really kind of nail that down for their purchase and still need to work out the timing of the sale of their current home. So that's great information. There's one thing you and I have talked about in the past, and I kind of want to touch on it a little bit, and I'm sorry if I'm repeating it, but I think it's really important. I know a lot of people who are using Credit Karma. It's kind of a pet peeve of mine. I don't know why. I really just don't like Credit Karma. You have an option. You have an alternative suggestion for that. Now I'm going to make you think about it.
Oh, are you talking about
the annual credit report, right?
Oh, yes. I see. I wasn't sure where you're going with that. So yes,
yeah.
A lot of borrowers come and say that they know what their credit scores are, and that they got it on Credit Karma or their Discover card or whatever. And realistically, Credit Karma is good just as kind of a target or a general idea of where your credit score falls. So if you were to call and say, I know my credit score is really good, and how do you know that? And I'll say, it was on my Credit Karma. It says that I have an 802. Depending on how comfortable I am with you, I might say, well, that's good, but it doesn't help. Otherwise, realistically, it's a good indicator for us, but it's not anything that I would base your pre-approval or your pre-qualification on, neither one of them. So instead, there's you are putting me on the spot, annualcreditreport.com, I think it's called. I can double check that and get that in the comments, but yeah. Basically, yes, it's a way to check your credit history, but the catch is with those, you don't often get your actual credit score. Okay, so that's a difference, where Credit Karma will give you an estimated credit score, but the annual credit report that I'm talking about is going to give you everything on your credit history that you can then go through and review and see if there have been any inquiries done that you didn't authorize, or if there are any late payments or collections or anything like that registering to your Social Security number. And then you can work on repairing them, of course. I think you might be able to pay and actually get your scores through them. But realistically, the safest way to go is just have your credit pulled. You need to know where you're starting. You need to know your baseline and then which way to go from there. And again, many lenders, me included, we can do rescores on your credit. We can dig through, and I've been doing it for 10 years. I find ways to improve your scores, whether, again, it's paying off collections or getting late payments removed or being added to an authorized user account or being removed from an authorized user account. So all sorts of little hints and opportunities to raise those scores if you need to. But yes, when you go to a lender with a Credit Karma, I'm just telling you right up front, we're going to laugh at you. So I know that Nancy doesn't like that. It's just
don't laugh. I'll just tell you, SueAnne says no.
Yeah. So it's a good indicator, but it's not necessarily a legit number that we would use.
Good. So. Thank you for covering that. Are there any more questions for?
Nope, not yet.
Nothing yet.
No.
Okay, well, keep your comments coming in if you'd like it to ask any questions. I want to remind you again, if you want to be in the door prize, we need you to text your name to 608-732-2990. And we do have a handout, and I'm going to kind of revert to the handout here real shortly. If you would like a copy of the handout, there's a lot of great information in there. Some of it is from SueAnne, some of it is from myself and Sam, and you're welcome to have that. Just send us a message that you're looking for it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my screen and we're going to keep moving on. Thank you, Sam. There we go. So we want to talk now about who represents who. The state of Wisconsin requires an agency disclosure upon the first meaningful contact with a buyer. And so what that means for a lot of people is it brings up this word negotiation. So we're required to disclose our agency before we begin negotiating with you. And for you as a buyer or a seller, negotiation might be when we actually sit down with paper and pen, or we're filling out that offer online and we're going to set it up for your signatures. That's not how the state tells us that negotiations are done. So for us, negotiation is when we start answering questions. What do you think about the price? Would you worry about this? What do you think I can get it for? What do you think they, will take? When do you think that they'll let me in? What if I'm a cash buyer, etc.? Those types of things are negotiation questions. And that's, as licensees, those are the things that we have to put behind the process of actually telling you about your choices for agency representation. Now, you don't have to choose any agency. We can proceed working on behalf of a seller because in the state of Wisconsin, we are going to be working for the sellers unless we have a contract to represent a buyer, and that's known as buyer agency. Very, very common. I think that buyer agency has been around for about 23 years, but the differences are this. It's when I am a buyer's agent, I can give you my advice and opinion, and I cannot do that for you if I'm not contractually obligated to you under a buyer agency agreement. So there's things that people get worried about when it comes to the different types of agency. I don't want to spend a lot of time going through the specific types because that's the kind of thing that you have to have that conversation with your agent. If you want to be represented, you have to tell the buyers, you have to tell the agent if you want them to be a buyer agent. Okay, that's the main thing you need to know. And the main advantage there is that you're getting that agent's advice and opinion, which is something that we normally could not give to you. Moving on, who represents you? How do you get represented? How do you want to be represented? There's lots of things that you can do in this process. When some people just go with the first agent they meet. Some people I've seen many, many times, people put on Facebook, I'm looking for a real estate agent. Do you know how many people have real estate licenses? So you're going to take the first one that responds on Facebook? I mean, you should be interviewing people and you need to know about, do they have referrals and references? What are their testimonials? Do they have online ratings? It's also a good idea to consider committing to just one agent rather than playing the field. And I'll tell you why, especially now. We're working in this market that is very tight if you're a buyer, very, very tight. Do you want someone who's on your side, who's going to give you their honest opinion and advice as a buyer agent? Or do you want me to continue working for the seller, which, by the way, there's probably how many buyers for each house that's coming on the market? Do you want me to work for them to help them get the best price and terms, or do you want me working for you? It becomes, as Sam alluded to before, there's like a circle of trust and there's a communication and a trust process that you have to go through, and it really leads to teamwork, us doing this work together. It goes back to the beginning, the basics. Interview agents, find someone you trust and feel comfortable with, because it will really benefit you in the long run. The process of looking for a home, the process of making the offer, that's not even half of the process. You might go for months looking for the home, but when you find the one you really want, you need that person to be there for you, to lean on, to be able to give you advice And ultimately, those decisions are going to be up to you, but you always do want someone on your corner. That's my opinion. That is my opinion only. And by the way, not every realtor has to provide buyer agency. So the state requires that we tell you that you have a choice, but they don't require us to offer it. We at First Weber do offer buyer agency. And so if you are interested in that, we are more than happy to set up a consultation with you. Another thing that's really important for us to know, whether we are your buyer agent or not, we do need to know what type of financing you're going to be working with. So SueAnne kind of talked about the different types of loans, and Sam has talked about, different loan programs having different requirements. We need to know what they're going to be. If you are working with a USDA or an FHA or WIDA or VA, there are going to be certain things about the home you ultimately buy that your bank may not approve, things that may need to be repaired or replaced or upgraded prior to you coming in. Easy examples: electrical. It's got to be grounded. It's got to have GFIs in those areas where there can be water, like bathrooms, kitchen, and laundry. Garages and outside spaces as well. There can't be any chipped or peeling paint. How much insulation is there? Are there storm windows and storm doors? All of that stuff is going to come into play. So when you tell us, this is the kind of loan that I qualify for, that I'm going to be using, when we're helping you look for homes, we can start to qualify the home if it's going to work for you or not. Now, not in every case do we disqualify it if it has some of those things that I'm telling you can't have. If you have a home that's got chipped and peeling paint, you want to make an offer on it, maybe we can make a contingency that says that the seller is going to have to scrape it, remove it from the property, and prime the wood at the very least, or maybe you want it painted. That's you and me and the seller and their agent working it all out. So I just want you to be aware of those types of things. Those are all very, very important topics. What are you looking for? What are we all looking for, right? There's a big difference between needs and wants. And I hear this all the time from buyers who say, I want a 3-bedroom ranch home. Okay, does it need a garage attached? How many cars do you want in the garage? What about the basement? Does it need a basement? Does it have to be a walkout basement? What kind of yard, etc.? There's a lot of different things that we would need to know. Now, in this kind of market, I have a lot of buyers who are saying, I'll just take whatever 3-bedroom ranch I can find. People who didn't want stairs are probably going to settle for a house that has some stairs in it because they want the house right now. So you have to know what you're going to give on. What is your absolute, I must have, and your absolute, I don't even care about it, right? The needs versus the wants. We have a list that you can actually kind of go through to do an assessment that then helps us set up a search for you. How do we do that search, by the way? Well, why don't you do me a favor? Pardon me?
Can I interrupt quick?
Oh, she's going to interrupt.
Stacia is wondering, how does it work if you are contracted as someone's buyer agent, but you are also the selling agent on the listing home that the buyer is interested in? Can you go into that a little bit more?
Oh, Stacia, you asked a very good question. Stacia wants to know, if I was a buyer agent for a buyer, but I was also the listing agent, the state would call that multiple representation and dual agency. So what you have to do, there's actual documentation that has to be done. Does your firm that you're working with as a buyer agent have a set policy on how they handle that? That's the first thing you would need to know. And then you would need to know, based on that, what the next steps would be. Sometimes, and remember, I'm not giving legal advice, and I'm not giving any advice about anybody's transaction. Sometimes that means that an agent can't do more for one side than they can for the other. Sometimes it means that we have to involve another agent. It's just, you have to have that conversation with your agent. But that is definitely a conversation that you would want to have. And most agents are going to have some kind of a conversation with you if you're interested in that setup. So it does vary from firm to firm, and so those are policies that you would need to know about. So we wanted you to actually put in the comments, what's your favorite way to look for homes? How have you been looking for homes? Have you been looking on online? Have you been looking on social media? What sites are you looking at? We kind of would like to know where you're going. We hear a lot from people who say they look at Zillow, and I'm not going to really say too much about that other than Zillow is a national portal that brings a feed in from every MLS that will allow it, right? So they have to have an agreement. And then what happens is it's like trying to fit I don't know if you can see my paper or not. It's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. Not every MLS uses the same format in sharing information. So when they're feeding that information into Zillow, Zillow may not have a place for it. Zillow may call it something different. The information doesn't always come through clean, if I could share it that way. I would recommend that you do consider, we have a great app, firstweber.com. You can go to your Play Store or what is it, Google Play and the App Store. You can download the First Weber app, or you can get it from any agent's website. Nancy Smith or Sam Staskal.firstweber.com, and you can download our app from there. We are getting our feed directly from the MLS. And so it's coming right from a local source to a local source. It's a cleaner feed. It's better information, in my opinion. And also, we are less prone to have information out there that is inaccurate. I don't know if that was a polite way of saying, I'm not going to say what I'm going to, yeah, let's move on. Anyway, how do you search? Well, there's the wide web, the World Wide Web. There's newspapers, which some people do still advertise in newspapers, word of mouth, my friend at work, or, my uncle's, brother, or something like that. Driving around and seeing signs, of course, what I already talked about, Zillow.com or Realtor.com, agent websites, or a home watch search. Maybe an agent has you set up for a specific search so that you can be alerted when there are changes coming on. For sale by owners and unlisted properties, maybe you just walked up and knocked on a door and asked somebody if they'd sell their house and they said yes. And then you go, well, now what do I do? Well, we have a process for that. Or one of the most common, a real estate agent is helping you. When it comes to home watch searches, I guess I should say a word about that. Our home watch search that we can set you up on, if you would like to have one, is going to alert you for 4 reasons. One would be a new listing is coming on the market, or it is going to come back to active, as we would say. So maybe it was on, it got an offer, the offer didn't close, and now it's coming back as active. Or the seller wanted to take it off and then they put it back on, or they weren't ready for it to be public and now they are. When it hits active, you're going to get an alert if it fits your profile. Another reason would be they have an open house or a price change. So there's 4 reasons why you would get an alert through our home watch search on a property that might fit your needs. We also have it set up so that it's an instantaneous ping. So in other words, when the change happens and it hits our website, you get the alert and it comes to your email. And so you can do map searches, you can do actual geographical searches where you're feeding in the names of the towns or the school districts that you would like. But I would put in a big plug for our home watch because I do think it's one of the better ones that's out there. How am I doing here, Sam?
Good.
Have I gone too long? Are there any questions?
No.
No, nobody has questions. I think it's time for Sam to come back.
Oh yeah, it's my turn.
I know. Do you want to leave this up? Do you want to leave the?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna make her.
You're gonna make me big.
I'm gonna make you look at her.
Oh, I get to look at SueAnne.
Get to look at SueAnne. I know. We're gonna change seats again.
We're really gonna have to disinfect everything when we're done.
So go on.
I'm gonna bleach myself. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about showings, especially how they are during this time with COVID. Most agents in the area, First Weber especially uses the Showing Time app, which is awesome because any time of the day or night we can request a showing, which sometimes I have to refrain from doing so because I realize that it sends it to the seller to approve. So when I'm like thinking of something at midnight, I probably shouldn't apply for that appointment. So I try to restrain there, but it is available 24/7, 365 days a year for us to schedule, cancel, reschedule. It's also a way that we gather feedback from all of our listings when there's a showing on our listing. Most agencies request the buyer's name upon requesting a showing, and they do this for several reasons. Right now, because of COVID, we provide their names in case there is a positive case and we need to do contact tracing, or if somebody's doing contact tracing, to know who's come into contact with that home, whether the buyer tested positive or the seller tested positive. It hasn't happened to us yet, but there is potential that it could. So we like to provide names for that reason. We also provide names so that at the end of the listing, they are considered what we call a protected buyer. And a protected buyer is somebody that either negotiated on the property, submitted an offer on the property. And what it does, that list is provided by the listing agent for the seller, and it protects those buyers for up to a year, and it protects the listing agent's commission if that person should come back around to buy the house within that year after the listing has expired, or maybe they moved it to another agency. So with that, let's talk more about showings. So how much time or how much notice is required to show? Generally, people appreciate 24 hours. If it's a tenant occupied like rental home, it might be 24 to 48 hours because the seller will have to notify the tenant, ask them, to allow a showing during that time, and then also get back to the agent that they can show. But generally it's 24 hours. If the home is vacant, we can show faster usually. And if we try to work with your schedule as much as we can and get it approved by the seller, but in the end, it has to be approved by the seller that we can show during the time that you request. How long does a showing last? Well, it depends on the home. Some homes, some buyers will walk into and they'll know right away, this isn't the home for me. Let's move on. They might not look at the basement. They might not look at the second floor. If they know right away when they walk in that, no, this isn't what I want. Or, if they're more interested, they might look at things more closely, like opening the windows, looking in the cupboards, really checking the foundation and the roof and stuff. So generally they're 30 to 45 minutes. They can go longer if they need to. At that point, if you are seriously interested, you might consider a second showing before you submit an offer, or just moving right to the offer. At the second showing, I often find anytime I go to a house, whether I show the same house, 2 or 3 times, every time I go, I see something I didn't see before, good or bad. I mean, you appreciate stuff more. The first time it's kind of the wow factor. The second time it's like, oh, I didn't notice that the foundation was cracked, or the windows are old, or something like that. So it's always good to have that second look. And you're allowed that. You can see it as many times as you need to. Who should attend the showings? Right now with COVID, we try to limit as much as we can to keep down the number of people that we're bringing through houses to protect both the seller and the buyers. So all essential decision makers should come to the showing. So if you're married, you should probably bring your spouse. The showing protocol that we're doing right now with COVID is we're taking a lot of extra precautions to protect ourselves, to protect you, and to protect the seller. So you'll most likely be required to wear a mask, and you should bring one. We will provide booties for you to slip over your shoes, and you should wear a new clean pair of booties every time you go to a different house. We also have hand sanitizer, and we use Clorox wipes to wipe down anything we touch. Generally, what I do is I give everybody that's going through the showing, I give them a Clorox wipe for their hand, and I say, anything you touch going through, use that hand. And if you forget and use the other hand, then wipe with the other hand. And then I go back through and I wipe as I'm shutting off all the light switches and the doorknobs and the keypad and stuff like that. So you should also be considerate and use a restroom before you come, because during COVID especially, sellers aren't too keen on sharing their restrooms. I understand if you have to go, you have to go, but try to avoid that. We're also asked as showing agents to get buyer feedback when we do show a listing. So we'll ask you questions that we can provide back to the listing agent of what you thought of the property. Some questions might be, what is your overall impression of this home? Is it what you expected? How would you compare this home to other homes I've shown you, or what you're looking for? What do you like most about this home? What do you like least about this home? What do you think of the price? Do you think it's priced fair? Do you think it's priced high? Is it, right, just right? And, can you see yourself living here? Are you interested in making an offer? Would you like a second showing? Is this one still on your list? Stuff like that, to just kind of get a feel for where you are and how this house ranks. So it's both for our purpose as a showing agent and for the listing agent as a takeaway of what can be improved upon or what they're doing well. Right now with COVID too, we've done a lot of virtual showings or virtual open houses, which, is all new to most of us, especially in Southwest Wisconsin here. I did a showing with a woman in California last weekend through Zoom. She was lucky that she has family in the area, and her family was able to come, her sister and her mom. And they had her on Zoom, and we walked through the house and we talked about things. So that's a great way to be able to see if you can't make it in person, or if you want to rule out a house or rule in a house before you show up in person. If you're a little uncomfortable coming in person, it's one way to see the house without coming until you're sure you want to see it. You can also, we try to, for our listings, include a link to a video walkthrough. If there isn't one, you can always request one, and most agents would be happy to either call the listing agent and have them get them one, or they will go and do a walkthrough themselves to show you. We are also doing virtual open houses, which is where we go to the house, and on like a Facebook Live like this, we would take questions through the comment section. We will answer your questions. We will show you specific things that you ask for. So it's another great way to see the house. We're just trying to be flexible to accommodate everybody and their level of comfort. So, we're pretty much open to anything. So now that's about it for what I have on showings. And then we're going to be drawing soon for the door prize. So if you haven't already, text your name to 608 732. Can you see this? 2990. Again, that's 608 732 2990 to be entered into the drawing for the prizes, which are 2 gift cards. You'll get a chance to win one of 2. So I'm going to turn it over to Nancy to go into more about offers to purchase.
All right, we're doing the big dance here. Okay, I'm back. We are kind of winding down. So for those of you who are starting to get a little antsy pants, we're almost done. But thanks for sticking with us, and please feel free to feed any questions or comments that you have in, because we are monitoring those, and we want to make sure that we do our drawing before everything is said and done. So really what I want to talk about now is the process of the offer. Boy, there's so much to talk about here. The main thing to know is the word contingency. Contingency is a condition of the offer that you need to understand. Somebody is going to have a responsibility to approve something or do something or whatever, and you only have usually so many days to do that. Now, again, I'm not giving you legal advice. I'm only telling you in general, these are things that you could find in an offer. The pre-approval, as we've talked to you heavily about here tonight, you typically do want to have the pre-approval with that offer, and a lot of times the pre-approval is written specifically for that offer. So let's say that SueAnne pre-approved you for $250,000, and you're writing an offer on a house that's listed for $190,000. You are not going to probably want to give the seller a letter that says that you can actually buy up to $250,000 if you're going to make an offer at $180,000 on a $190,000 house. On the contrary, what you might want to do is have her issue a letter that has the address of the property that you're going to be making the offer on, and she will actually insert the actual purchase price into that letter. You might think, oh, I don't want to bother her. Why would I make her do it? She loves it, right, SueAnne? You love doing that. She gave me a thumbs up. You go, girl. Agency, we have to know, how are we writing this offer? Who do we represent? And so if you want to be represented as a buyer and you still have not made that choice, you should let somebody know. the price, the earnest money. These are all things that right there slapped on the first 2 pages of the offer. And they're sometimes the last thing we get to. Sometimes people really can't make a decision. I will tell you right now that there are a lot of strategies about how to write an offer in a market like this. And there's different types of clauses that people like to use. One of them is called an accelerator or escalator clause. I'm not really going to go into that other than to tell you they exist. And basically what that does is when you're writing an offer and you know that there's competition, there's other offers in there, you have the ability to tell the seller, if you accept an offer that's above mine, I will go up to X dollars, or I'll go up in increments of this to beat their offer. It's really technical. Not everybody likes them, but those things are out there and you can ask about them. All right. So now I've told you enough to be dangerous. Earnest money, almost every offer has it. There are people in certain times, in certain markets where people will say, I don't want to put earnest money in. Right now, earnest money to sellers is an indication of how serious you are about the property. And one way that you can make your offer stand out from other offers is how much earnest money are you willing to tender. Now, earnest money is usually held by the listing broker, and then it gets applied to your purchase price at closing. So ultimately, it can be part of your down payment or your closing costs, like SueAnne was talking about. But it's an agreement that you make within the offer between you and the seller, and then that earnest money gets held. Now, the seller doesn't just get the money. So, and again, I can't give you legal advice, but I can tell you that there's a process if the property does not close that you would need to go through to request your earnest money back from the seller. And so we can not give you advice about that. But we can tell you that almost every offer does have earnest money in it. Binding acceptance is when all of the parties are in agreement in writing and everybody has a copy of that offer. Binding acceptance is important because especially if you have an offer and you have not received it back within the deadline, that doesn't mean it's dead. The seller might be coming back, or the buyer might be coming back with a counter offer for you. So your agent would keep you up to the speed on that as it went through. Other common contingencies, financing and appraisal. You've heard us talk a lot about that tonight. Those are very important for most people. Some people have cash, or they want to ask if they can do land contracts. There's different things that you can do. Ultimately, it's whatever you and the seller agree to. We are the ones that are just here to write that and put it in writing for you. But for a cash offer, you still, in most cases, are going to need to present proof of funds. And that's just something that says, hey, I've got the money sitting here and ready to spend it on this house. Inspections and tests are another very common contingency. When you have a house that's in a city where you're getting city water and sewer, most people do a home inspection. Many people add radon testing now into it. That's something that's pretty prevalent in our area. And so if you don't know what radon is, it's a gas that comes out of the ground and it can become trapped in your home, and it's considered to be a cancer agent. So that's what radon is. You can find information about it online. And if the seller agrees to let you have the test, you can do it. Inspections, though, are usually done by a certified home inspector. They have to be certified with the state in order to be able to do the home inspection that will affect your transaction. So don't bring in your uncle or your brother's friend or whatever who's a contractor, because that's not the same as a home inspection. Home inspectors have a list of things that they go through and monitor, and they typically will give you a report that gives you an idea. Is it an actual defect, or is it something that you should watch down the road, or that you might want to make improvements to as you go? Some homeowners, after they close and become the homeowner, hang on to those inspection reports, and they actually will show me, well, this is the inspection report I had done, and here's the improvements the inspector said I should do, this, that, and the other thing. And I love that because it shows to me that they had some skin in the game. They didn't just buy a house, live in it, and expect to sell it for more money than what they bought it for. They actually took the steps to keep the house moving. They were caretakers of that house. So that's kind of what you have to look at home ownership as. As a closing date is another contingency that's in most offers. We need to have some kind of a date certain where that contract is going to close. Counter offers are, in essence, it's a rejection of your offer, but then well, I don't like that, but I'll do this, right? So usually within the first counter offer anymore, we know what the main things are. It's usually price, and it might be something that you wanted that they didn't want to leave. So it might be something to do with property, but it could be many things. It really depends on the situation that you're going to be in. Once that offer is accepted, we need to know, what are the contingencies of your offer? What do you need to pay attention to? What do you have to order or look up or get research on? What does the other party need to do? And then we kind of get the offer out the door to the lender. The lender needs to know right away when you have an accepted offer, because they only have so much time to get you disclosures so that they can fulfill their obligations to you in terms of the deadlines that they've been given. And then they need to get to work on their underwriting process. Amendments are a change in the offer. So we have that accepted offer. Everybody's got a copy of it. The most common thing, we have an inspection and something needs to be fixed or changed. So let's go back to the issue of electrical. What if there were no GFIs in the kitchen and you wanted them? Well, you might do an amendment asking the seller to do those. It's the change to the offer. And I always say it like this. The offer is between the buyer and the seller, and it's the rules of the game. So if the rules of the game change, I want to have that in writing, because if I disappeared off the face of the earth, you would want someone else to be able to come in and know this was what the rules of the game are, so that they could take over and help you with it. That's the way I look at it. And as far as closing goes anymore, it's not fun anymore. COVID changed a lot of things for us. I used to love to go to closing and watch people. They'd be so excited, and they would be getting the keys to that property and they'd have stuff loaded up in their trucks. It was just so exciting to be part of that. Now we don't really get to go. You have to go in there, and it's for a good reason. If you can get into the title company to do your closing, they need to be safe. They need you to be safe. They want everything. They have to keep moving business through. That's a place of business for them. And so, understandably so, these are the restrictions that we're facing right now. But that doesn't take any joy away from what you're going through. It's a great feeling that day that you get those keys. You get to get your whole friends and family together and help you move into that house. I know so many people that say they do it in a day. How do you do that? I moved in July and I still have boxes I didn't unpack. So, but I love it. I love when people just take over and start making changes and making it their own. It's a very exciting time. Do we have any other questions or comments?
No.
Guys, we're coming to the end of our home buyer seminar.
But I do have slips of paper here
That can only mean one thing.
for who wins.
Wait, let me draw.
You want to
I can hold it up and you can read it.
Okay.
Okay, close your eyes and point.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
And I can't even offer to help her with it because we're not supposed to touch.
How am I supposed to draw on there?
I don't know, throw them in the basket.
All right. So which gift card first?
Let's do Country Kitchen.
So the winner of the Country Kitchen gift card is Andy Barth.
Andy!
I'll drop that off for you.
Congratulations, Andy. I hope you enjoyed the show tonight.
And for the Unos is Stacia.
Stacia, congratulations.
So I will reach out to you for your address, Stacia, and if you're in my area, I'll drop it off. Otherwise, I will mail it to you.
This is very exciting. Hey, I hope you guys really enjoyed this. Could you just do me a favor real quick? If you're still with me and you liked it, please hit that like sign, send us some love, or you can hit the heart sign, whatever you want to hit. Please don't hit the laughing one. It will hurt my feelings.
It won't hurt mine. Not at all.
It's been a very long day. This has actually gone pretty well, I would have to say.
better than our trial.
It was way better than our trial, where someone had a potty mouth.
It was an accident. You didn't tell me we were recording.
Yeah, that thing that says live, that's what it means.
The next one, I'm coming to the office, though. I've missed out on.
Definitely.
Well, you might have to sit on somebody's lap because this like pretty tight quarters here.
We'll make it work.
Yeah, make it work. All right. Well, listen, everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with us. We know that this is going to go into a recording that we'll be able to call back on and use again. But at the same time, if you have any questions, Sam and SueAnne and I are always here to help and answer. You can send us private messages. You can send us text messages. In fact, what I'm going to do right now, because she worked so hard on this, is I'm going to get back to this format here where we talked about the our handout, and this is our contact information on the screen. So you can text us, call us, send us emails, or you can message us through Facebook. We're all on Facebook, and we would be more than happy to help you. So it would be a very, very big honor for us, wouldn't it, Sam?
Yes, it would.
Yeah,
I love meeting new people. So
I do too. Sam's been an agent for about a year. Sam, what's been your favorite part?
I think just meeting all the different people and hearing their stories and, you know, just having laughs together as we, you know, it's kind of quirky because you don't know each other, but it's fun. I love it.
Yeah, it can be quirky. I've been doing this for 23 years, and you know what I do love about it is I just love this business. I love the people. I love that I get to help people with the biggest purchase of their life. And most people will not purchase anything more expensive than a home or sell something more expensive than a home. And I really, really enjoy that aspect of getting to help guide them through it. So we are going to let you guys go. Thank you, SueAnne, so much for your time tonight.
You're welcome. Thank you for allowing me to be on here. I hope I answered some questions, and my contact information is in the comments. So questions for buyers, sellers, anything, I'm happy to help. Doesn't
Sounds
even
good.
have to be my buyer or my client.
And I also dropped a link for SueAnne's app, which is a great app for you to get pre-approved or to use the mortgage calculator on it. That's in the comments below.
Thank you.
Awesome. Hey guys, we're going to stop sharing right now and we're going to let you go. So have a great night.
Still gonna end it.
I will.